what worked for me was tenacity.
My message to women out there is girls can do anything, because I believe it very strongly. Follow your dream in life and do what you want to do.
If you believe in yourself, self-confidence is the first step to success.
First came out, I got a job at Columbia Pictures. I was under contract to Columbia Pictures well before I started my carpentry career. And I had a 7-year contract for $150 a week on the basis of a 5-minute meeting. So I had extraordinary luck from the very beginning. And I spent a year and a half or so at Columbia, then I went to Universal for a year and a half. I wasn't very happy doing the kind of work I had, and that's how I started doing carpentry. I got back into it through George Lucas hired me for American Graffiti, and that was really the biggest break I'd had to that point. And I did American Graffiti, then I went back to doing carpentry work, and I did 3 or 4 other films, and finally put away my tools when Star Wars was such a big hit. So there are a lot of people to thank, but I can't. A lot of people helped me along the way.
Advice for anyone in the business, the best thing that worked for me that I didn't even know was a good thing was I never took it personally when they didn't give me a part. I just, well, that's not the part for me, and I just went to the next interview and the next interview, so I never got emotionally exhausted or felt rejected. I just showed up, did my best. I mean, on Big Valley, when I went up actually I didn't go up to read for Big Valley, it was a movie that they were doing. And I went up for it and read for them, and the director said, that is the worst reading I've ever heard in my life. I said, okay, bye. And I got up to go. He said, but you have a quality, so do you mind sticking around and I'll give you something else to read? I mean, and I ended up getting Big Valley. Just don't take it personally. Just keep showing up for what you love, what you want to do, and just be in there.
That's a great one. Now, when you launched, I know this is another tough one, but you mentioned it briefly, the dad, when you launched your dad. That's a really difficult at that age. So what did you do at that? Because now you know all this stuff, how you would handle it, but how did you handle that at that time? Was it out of the blue? Did it,
Right, my dad was completely out of the blue. He died out of the blue. We didn't know, but he suffered at home with cancer for months and months and months. It was truly one of the most painful times I ever remember coming home. Didn't have hospice in those days, so it was very difficult. Interestingly enough, though, after that, it was when I went with my girlfriend on an interview for a commercial, and she was up and I was just sitting with her to, pass the time. The director came out and said that he wanted to see me, and I said, I'm not here, she's here. And she went in to see him. She said, he wants you to do the commercial. I mean, go in and talk to him. I said, I can't do the commercial. I was so shy in my junior high school that they made me take drama because I wouldn't get up and give a book report. And I used to throw up before I had to get on the scene. I said, I don't want to do that. He said, do you think you can sit on a carousel with a bottle of ginger ale and a guy smile at him? I said, yeah, but my girlfriend will kill me. And he said, I'll give her a part. He did. And that, if my dad hadn't died, my fear of getting up in front of people probably would have had me say no. But my mom was on Social Security. We needed the money. I couldn't say no, and then my career began because of that moment. At the age of 15, my girlfriend then said, you need an agent? Take my agent. I took her agent. She said, "Can you walk, talk, and act?" I said, "I don't know. I did a play, but I was Sleeping Beauty, and I slept most of the play." She said, "Let me send you up for a part." My first part I went up for to read as an actress was Bachelor Father with John Forsythe, and I got the lead opposite him.
And eventually you got...
Yeah. So if my dad hadn't passed away, which was the biggest tragedy I'd known in my life at that time, I wouldn't have had the courage to start the career I have now.
The desire and the will to accomplish anything that you want, but you're going to have to pay the price. And the price of success can only come through the avenue of hard work. That's the only way you're going to realize and reach your goals in life. If you believe in yourself, self-confidence is the first step to success. If you believe it, you can make it.
My message to women out there is girls can do anything, because I believe it very strongly. Follow your dream in life and do what you want to do. Because I'm a school dropout. I dropped out of school when I was 15. And, you know, everybody said to me, "You cannot do it. You've got to go to college. You've got to get a degree." And I said to myself, you know what? I'm a storyteller. I'm not a literary writer. And I'm going to bloody well follow my dream. And I followed it all the way to 28 books on the New York Times bestseller list. And I truly believe that girls can do anything. And I'm a living example of it. And I think that every woman out there should have something that's her own, that's not just the husband and the kids, something that she can do to herself. And I really think that, you know, they have to, if it's making cupcakes or sewing or whatever they want to do, but whatever it is, they have to do something for themselves. And that's my message to women.
It's so difficult today starting from scratch. I would make this a plan B with a plan A intention. And what I mean is, I instruct all youngsters today to grow up with the idea of taking the arts and the business sort of with the intention of it being a very serious hobby. Get yourself some sort of an income. So while you're writing your scripts, you're taking your acting lessons, you're going to your producing seminars, whatever it is that you want to do, you're not starving during that process. And you know, the beautiful thing about this business is every single project that we're involved with is a lottery ticket, and you just have to be patient, because you never know when you're going to stumble across a success. Whatever that harebrained scheme of yours is, it could turn out to be the most popular movie, television series we've ever heard of, and that's the beauty about this business. But I honestly look to each and every one of you who are starting out there, and I say, make sure you've got some income, a source of income to back your ideas with.
I think in any business you have a lot of rejections, but if you have studied and if you know your craft, your self-worth is good enough and high enough that you won't pay attention to the rejections. I learned early on that many of the rejections had no worthiness. they weren't worthwhile. In fact, my very first interview in Hollywood was with a man who told me to go home, that I was a very pretty little girl, but I wasn't pretty enough, and I was much too nice to be in Hollywood. Go home and marry the boy at home, and then showed me a picture of his daughter and said, "This is what they want, big hms." And I blinked and I thought, oh my. I went home. I didn't go home. I went to my aunt and uncle's home where I was staying down here in Los Angeles. And I started to think about it. You know, you can't have all beautiful people in films. You need the character actors. You need the real stuff in there with it. And what was he talking about? Go home? I already was a member of Actors Equity. He didn't ask me if I sang. He didn't ask me if I had studied or where I studied. So I threw that that rejection away early on. That was thrown away.
That's great. Now you mentioned Lucy.
Yes.
Because somebody might watch us in New York in 2 months and they wouldn't have known what you said on the stage. So bring up Lucy and the character the class she had and that.
Oh, Lucille Ball was a wonderful, wonderful woman, especially to me. That was my third job in Hollywood, and she went so far as to take my costume and make it prettier, so I would look better on the show. She really, I don't even know how to explain. Actresses don't do that, or working people don't do that. They're too busy. They're too busy doing other things. She went out of her way. She was very gracious, very giving, wanted to sign me to a contract. And at the time, I had already tested at Fox, so I was unable to sign with her. But I'll never forget her.
How about Larry Hagman?
Oh, Larry is wonderful. He's crazy, but he is, I must say, of all the men I've worked with, Larry is the one. He's a fine actor, and his rhythms and mine seem to mesh. We just fall into it when we're together. I love working with him.
I grew up not thinking I was going to be an actor, and then I realized that to change my life, I needed to go to college. And so I went to Wayne State in Detroit, and I discovered theater. And I fell in love with theater, and I was writing and acting and just doing a little bit of everything. And when I graduated from Wayne State, I got a scholarship to Yale, and I went to Yale School of Drama. And when I left Yale, I went to the University of Minnesota for a little while, and then I realized that I didn't want to teach. I wanted to actually do this. I mean, I'm an actor, and so eventually came out to Hollywood, and I've always made my living doing what I love to do. So, and I always tell people, I guess it's struggle, but really it's about your life. I mean, it's a life thing. So life is going to be sort of a series of puzzles that you kind of have to figure out. So you can look at puzzles like I'm struggling through this, or like this is really cool, I'm figuring it out. So for me, my life has been, I mean I've been charmed, and it's been fun. And so I guess it probably, some people would have said, oh, it must have been really difficult, but the reality for me is it's been just an amazing adventure. I made the decision, I won't say mistake, it was a decision to get married right out of high school, and my wife got pregnant right away, and we had 2 kids, and then the marriage ended, and the boys came to live with me, and so I was a single parent trying to get into this acting thing, but it was.
Did that make that harder then, because you had 2 people as well?
The interesting thing about kids is it's very hard to say to a child, this is America and you can do anything you want to do, but I can't do what I want to do. So I knew that I couldn't give up my dream, and my kids really sort of inspired me, and they still do, to reach and do the best that I can do. So yeah, no, I just think it's it's light, and it's a wonderful experience, and yeah, it can be a little confusing, but that's what makes you better. But I know some people say, oh, it's so difficult, it's so hard, I can't. It's just life.
I didn't have a connection. I was in high school, and luckily we wore uniforms to school, but my best friend was as wealthy as I was poor. She's still my best friend, by the way, and she's still wealthy. But in any case, she got her family to come and hear me in the High School Musical. And she said she wants so badly to go to New York. Well, everybody was picking out colleges. They had this big book. And so I'm looking for a school that taught acting and all of that. And I read about the American Academy of Dramatic Arts. So my classmates would go, well, where are you going to school? And I go, I'm going to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts in New York City, without a clue as to how I would get there. Well, guess what? a couple of months later, I was sponsored to New York. I had not auditioned yet. That's the nerve I had, to go to New York with really not much, not many clothes. And I went to the school the next day, to the American Academy, and they knew I was coming, and I had an audition, and I got in. And I never really doubted. I thought, well, yeah, I'll get in, you know. Ignorance is bliss, and youth is filled with, you know, desires and confidence and you know, the ability to think you can make it. I tell myself every day, you know, that this is going to be the best day of my life, that it's going to require effort on my part, it's going to require gratitude. When I feel down, I don't stay down very long, and if I really am feeling bad, I start making a list of things I have in my life that I'm grateful for. And I think so often we forget the little things that we have in life that are blessings. For myself, I pray every day. I try to lift everything I do up, you know, and just, you know, love. It's the simplest word in the world, but just love one another.
Getting good work after Dukes of Hazzard was harder than getting Dukes of Hazzard ever was.
Do you think that's because you were molded into a role and people saw you as that?
Yeah. There's a stereotype that goes along with that. But I'm from Mount Kisco, New York. I'm from, you know, Westchester County, New York. Happened to act like that on the Dukes of Hazzard, and yet it stuck. Right. So there's a lot to be said for making a tremendously powerful first impression. You have to be aware of that, because you might spend 30 years trying to get that out of people's heads. Not that there's I have nothing against Dukes of Hazzard. I love the Dukes of Hazzard. But I wish that, I think more now, after 30 years, people really don't have that stuck in their heads quite as much. I think Nip Tuck helped. I think Smallville helped. I think Dirty Sexy Money helped. But you have to be very careful what the first impression is that you make. Because I used to say, and it's true, you don't have a second chance to make a first impression, so make a good one.